By now you would be pretty familiar with this pyramid which talks about the various asset classes and the risk return characteristics associated with these asset classes. In today's session, we will focus on real estate. When we think about real estate, what comes to our mind first is the house that me and you live in. But a house is one of the many options available to you when you think of investing in a real estate property. And the house that you live in is actually not even considered a part of your investment portfolio. The reason being, you are living in the house and it's being used for self-consumption. You are not earning any rent or returns from the investment. The property may appreciate in value over a period of time, but it is not giving you any periodic return. It's being used for self-consumption. So the house that you live in is not even considered as a part of your real estate investment portfolio. When you think of investing in real estate, there are a number of options available to you which we will discuss. When you think of investing in real estate, it can be a residential property, it can be a commercial property, or it can be a piece of land. Now within residential property also, you have options of investing in a regular home in a city, which is typically where I and you live or decide to rent out if you're moving from one city to another. The second option available under the residential category is luxury homes. Luxury homes have become pretty popular as an investment choice in the last 10 to 12 years in India because of the fact that they're able to generate higher returns compared to your regular houses. We will look at this in the subsequent part of the session. If you think of investing in a commercial property, you can decide to go and buy an office in a multi-story building, or you can buy a shop which is part of a residential property or part of a shopping complex which can give you regular returns in the form of rent. The second alternative when looking at a commercial property is buying a warehouse which can be lent out to some of the larger companies and it gives you a periodic rent. When you think of buying land, the first option is buying an agricultural land which allows you to get returns in the form of the crop that you grow on the land, apart from the appreciation that you expect in the value of the land. Other alternative is buying a plot of land which can be used either for commercial or for residential purposes, wherein you would construct a building on that plot of land and eventually make profits from either sale of the building or renting out of that building. The most unique part of investing in real estate as an asset class is there is no way to standardize the returns that you can expect from the asset class. That is because investment in real estate is investment in the physical location at where that particular real estate property is located. Be it residential, commercial, or a plot of land, the location of the property is a huge determinant of the total return that you can expect from that property. That is why it is said that the most critical aspect of investing in real estate is location, location, and location. The kind of real estate property that you plan to invest in combined with the location will determine your overall return as to what you would get over a period of time. For example, if you're looking to invest in a property that gives you regular rent, then you would prefer to invest in a regular home in one of the metro cities where you expect to have a lot of consistency at which you receive the rent versus buying a regular home in a tier 3 city or town where the consistency of receiving rent may not be as good as compared to a metro city. But when you're buying a luxury home, obviously you would not want to buy it in the heart of a metro city because it's going to be exorbitantly expensive and you may not find that much place. You would want to move away from a metro city, move to the smaller places and look for a nice cozy place with a fantastic view, with a fantastic area around it so that it can give you the kind of returns which you look for in a luxury home. If I show you a chart of the movement of real estate prices in Mumbai versus Gurgaon, you can see that although they appear pretty similar, the charts do not give the correct picture because even within Mumbai, the kind of returns you get from South Mumbai in the last 10 years have been very different from the kind of returns from the suburbs and have been very different from the kind of returns from central Mumbai, that is BKC, right? So when you think of investing in real estate, these kind of charts will give you numbers. The numbers may not mean anything because what is important again is the actual location of the property. Even two properties located on two sides of the same road can give you very different returns depending on the surrounding of the property that you purchase. If you look at the general returns on real estate prices in India in this second quarter of 2020, you will find that they have been very different across different cities. On the lower end are cities like Mumbai and Pune, and on the higher end you see cities like Hyderabad. This only gives you a very broad picture of how saturated or how well a particular market is doing. But again, I said this is just the tip of the iceberg. You need to do a lot of research in figuring out which is the actual property that you want to buy when you are in that particular city or area. If you look at the risk return chart of real estate as an asset class, real estate again is considered a high risk, high return asset class. The reason being, of all the 5 asset classes, the one asset class which competes with equities in terms of the returns that you can expect, it is real estate. But again, going back to our fundamental principle, if we expect high returns, we should be ready to expect higher risk also associated with investing in real estate. The most common question that we get asked is, how do I decide whether I should invest in a real estate property or not? One of the key factors that can help you make this decision is looking at the rental yield associated with the property. Now, what do you mean by the rental yield? It's very simple. If you buy a property which is going to give you a rent of 3 lakhs per annum, and to purchase that property you need to pay an amount of 1 CR today, then your rental yield is nothing but 3 lakhs divided by 100 lakhs into 100, which as a percentage gives you a rental yield of 3%. That means if you were to invest in this particular property, you can expect to earn regular cash flows of 3% of the value of the property. Obviously, the appreciation in the value of the property is in addition to the rental yield that you will expect to be earned every year. This asset class is very similar to equities, wherein you again earn the appreciation in the value of the share price in addition to the dividends that you earn on an yearly basis. If you compare that down to real estate, it is price appreciation plus rentals that you will earn on a yearly basis. Now, what varies across these 6 different options under the real estate asset classes that we introduced to you is the kind of rental yield you will expect and the kind of price appreciation. In certain properties, you invest for the rent that you get from the property, whereas in certain properties you would invest for the potential they have in terms of the appreciation in the value of the property. And in some of them, it is a combination of both. Let's look at each of these one after another. If you look at the residential market, you have an option of investing either in a regular home or a luxury home. The kind of returns that have been seen in the recent past are different for both of them. So are the rental earnings. Let me give an example to you. If you invest in a flat in the suburbs of Mumbai, say in Borivali East, the value of the house, a typical 2 BHK would be about 1 CR. The kind of rent that you can expect for investing in such a property is about 25,000 a month or 3 lakhs for the year. You can budget an expense of about 50,000 towards the maintenance of that particular flat, the common maintenance that you pay to the society, in addition to the property taxes that you need to pay to the government. Netting off that amount, you're left with a net earnings of 2.5 lakhs for the year. This results in a yield of 2.5% per annum. Now, that is one part of your returns. The second returns you will earn is from the increase in the value of the property. If you look at the average returns of investing in the Borivali area in Mumbai, you get a return of about 3 to 4% in the form of appreciation in the value of the property. Again, I would say this with a caveat which is applicable to every real estate investment, that the returns, actual returns that you get are very different from property to property. It is very easy to generalize across an area so that you understand the kind of returns that you can expect, but they can vary a lot depending on the actual property you put your money in. So if you were to do a sum of both, the overall gains that you can expect from investing in a regular home in the suburbs of Mumbai is in the range of 5.5 to 6.5% per annum. If you were to compare this with a luxury home which you decide to purchase on the outskirts of Mumbai, rather in between Mumbai and Pune, in a place by name Lonavala, if the value of your house is say 2.1 CR, which is a nice plush 3 BHK, a premium bungalow, along with a attached swimming pool maybe, the kind of rent that you can expect if you were to give out this property based on the market rates is about 45,000 for a night. And obviously you will have to invest some amount of money in the upkeep of the property, having a local person there to take care of the cleanliness and the other maintenance related expenditure. Budgeting an amount of 10,000 for it, the net return you can expect from renting out your luxury home in Lonavala would be say about 35,000 for one night. You should understand that a luxury home cannot be rented out for all days of the year. Generally the demands are on the weekends. In a place like Lonavala, the demand would be higher during the winters or during the rainy season. And assuming that you're able to rent it out for 48 days out of the 365 days of the year, you would net make an amount of 16.8 lakhs on an investment of 2.1 CR. The actual yield turns out to 8% per annum, which is obviously much higher than the yield we calculated from our regular home investment. Now, given that the property is situated in a small place, if we assume an increase in value of property between 2 to 3% per annum, and given that Lonavala is a pretty saturated market, the net gains you make from this property investment is 10 to 11%. So obviously the returns that you get every year from a luxury home are much higher than the returns you can expect from a investment in a regular house. But you should understand that there is a caveat here, that when you invest in a luxury home, the returns are higher, so are the risks. Why? Because you are always living with the risk that you may not be able to rent out your luxury home for some reason or the other. For example, if it was COVID, which put a restriction on travel, so for the first 3 months, these properties would have got zero kind of rentals. But then when work from home became a norm, a lot of people moved out of Bombay, moved into these luxury homes and actually started working out of there. And that is when these properties actually have started realizing much higher rents compared to they realized in the past. This is how you distinguish between whether you buy a luxury home versus a regular home, because the kind of returns associated with them are different, so are the risks associated with them. If you look at the average rental yields for investing in a regular home across major cities in India, you will find that they are the lowest in a place like Mumbai and they are much higher when you move to a place like Hyderabad or Kolkata. That is purely because the average cost of a property, which is measured by the amount that you need to pay per square feet, it is much higher in Mumbai compared to Hyderabad. The reason is because the supply is limited in Mumbai, given that it's an island city and it has only so much land, whereas Hyderabad has been able to expand over a period of time as the demands have increased by bringing in all the neighboring areas within the limits of the city. Rental yields give you an idea of what is the kind of returns you should expect if you are investing in any of these cities here. Now that you understand the investment options available if you look for a residential property, let's move to the investment options available under the commercial category. The options available here are either you buy an office or a shop. An office is generally a part of a multi-storied building and it's part of the society where the maintenance and the common areas are managed by the society, and that is a benefit you get because it has a common security, common FMS management, etc., which make your life simpler if you decide to buy an office within a multi-storied building. The alternative is buying a shop, which can be a standalone shop. It can be a shop which is part of a residential complex, or it can be a shop which is part of a bigger shopping complex or a shop even within a mall. All of these investments form a part of your commercial property investments, which are pretty common if you are investing as an individual retail investor. The second alternative is investing in a warehouse, wherein you construct a warehouse on the outskirts of the city based on the specifications of your expected clients and give it out on rent, which is generally a longer lease, ranging from 8 to 10 years or even longer. Now again, both these investment options have certain categories or parameters where they differ. Let's look at them one after another. If you invest in an office property in the suburbs of Mumbai, say in Andheri East, if you look at a 2,150 square feet office, the expected value of the office would be INR 4 CR and you can expect to earn a rent of 2,50,000 per month or 30 lakhs per year if you invest in such a property. Obviously, the maintenance and property tax of a commercial property is much higher when compared to a residential property, on an average at least. And you can budget about 5 lakhs for your maintenance and tax, and after that you're left with a net rental amount of 25 lakhs per annum. 25 lakhs divided by the value of your office of 4 CR gives you a rental yield of 6.25% per annum. You can see that the rentals from a commercial office is definitely higher than your regular home. If you expect an increase in the value of the property between 5 to 6%, the overall gains are 11 to 12%. Now, obviously there are risks associated with investing in such a property because your maintenance and taxes are much higher. And if you're not able to rent out the property for some reason, then you're left with a fixed expense you have to incur without a rental income. And the recent COVID scare was a major eye-opener for anybody who was the owner of these commercial properties, because people just left their offices with the new work from home which has come into picture. The second alternative when investing in a commercial property is a warehouse. Now, typically warehouses are not small ticket investments. If you see, a warehouse can cost you anywhere between 6 to 10 crores starting, and it can go up to tens of crores depending on the size of the warehouse. If I take a typical example of a warehouse on the outskirts of Mumbai in Bhiwandi, a 66,000 square feet warehouse will cost about 17.5 crores to buy, and the rent you can expect from such a warehouse after all expenses is about 1.58 CR per annum. So the rental yield that you get from such a warehouse is about 9%, which is the highest of the various categories of commercial properties that we've seen till now. Now, obviously, depending on where you construct the warehouse and what is your cost of construction, the yield can be higher also. It is not uncommon for warehouses to have a yield of 12 to 14% as well. Once you add the expected increase in the value of the property, you get your overall gain of investing in a warehouse between 13 to 18%. If I were to bring together the various risks that are associated with investing in a residential or a commercial real estate, the biggest risk associated is the lack of liquidity. Liquidity meaning, if you want to sell your property, be it a home or be it an office, you cannot sell it tomorrow and realize your gains. It can take anywhere between a month or longer for you to be able to sell the property, and then you need to give the other party certain time to allow them to arrange for the payments to you. The most underrated risk of investing in real estate is the risk of liquidity, that when you need money, you will not be able to realize it. If you compare this with equity shares, if the value of a share falls from INR 100 to INR 30, it is a 70% fall in the value of share. In spite of that, you can place an order on the stock exchange, sell the share, and in T+2 days, you will get the money in your account. So the liquidity is a huge superior factor for an equity share when compared to real estate, where the lack of liquidity is a dampener. Not just the lack of liquidity, if the value of your property is about 4 CR, for example, and you just need 50 lakhs, you have to liquidate the entire property, and you don't have an alternative to sell part of it and keep the rest of the property. That is again a risk associated with investing in real estate. Then there are the usual property title issues, which you will find not just in the big cities, even in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, that at times there are disputes or the property titles are not clear, that can have a negative impact on your holdings. One major risk associated with investing in real estate, which you've discussed right from the beginning, is the location of the property. Two properties located very close to each other can have different unique risks which are associated with the specific location. So property on A side of the road will have good supply of water, whereas property on B side of the road does not have good water because of the infrastructure on both the sides. That itself can have a huge impact on the net returns you get from the property. And finally, the amount that you need to invest in a real estate property is much higher than any of the other asset classes that we've talked about. In any other asset class, you can always start with a small ticket amount, and you also have an option to invest on a monthly basis. Whereas if you decide to buy any of the physical properties, that is not the case. You will have to first accumulate a lump sum and then invest the entire lump sum into that property, and that kind of increases your risk because a major chunk of your money is getting invested or locked in a single property. This particular disadvantage has been taken away after we have an option today to invest in REITs, that is real estate investment trust. We will talk about this in our subsequent section, that is in our module 2 of this course. The third option when investing in real estate is buying land. Land can be buying agricultural land, which will help you get regular returns in the form of the agricultural produce that can be made from that land on a yearly basis, or buying a plot which can be used for constructing a building which can be given out either for commercial purposes or for residential purposes. Three unique factors which affect your investment in land are the first one being common across all our real estate investments, that is location. The unique factor affecting the value of land is the topography of the land, which basically talks about how your land is. Is it a plain land in the middle of a city, or is it a huge agricultural land outside the city which has a lot of plantations? Is it a rocky land? Is the land mountainous in terms of the topography, or does the land have a pond in the middle of it? Does it have a lake? Is the water under the land easily accessible, or is it too deep? Now these are the factors which are very unique from location to location. These topographic factors have a huge impact on the value of the land that you plan to purchase. The third factor is the use of land. If the land is classified as agricultural land, you can use that only for agricultural purposes and cannot construct a building over that land. Versus if a land is classified for industrial use only, then the only option available with you is to construct a factory or a warehouse in that area. You cannot use such a land for residential purposes. And the third use of land is your commercial use, which can be a residential or a commercial building that you construct, which is a part of your city plan, right? So the use of land has a huge impact on the value of land, and you should consider these three factors before you think of buying a plot of land. Now, when you invest in land, land as an asset is different from the first two subcategories we talked about, because we are talking about pure land here. We're not talking about the construction of the building or the structure which is on the land. Here you invest in land to make money out of the particular use of the land. Now that you understand the unique factors that affect land as an asset class, so are the return expectations. Generally, land as an asset class, you expect to earn returns largely in the form of appreciation in the value of the land. Unless your land is in a part of a municipality or part of a metro city where there is demand for land separately from the building, generally you do not earn any rental from the land. So this appreciation can happen if you buy a plot of land and eventually a highway gets constructed close to it, or if you buy a large plot of land, break it down into smaller plots and sell it at a profit, or you buy a agricultural land, apply to the government, convert it into a land which can be used for industrial purposes, and then try to make money out of such an investment. So investing in land is very different from buying a property which gives you a regular rent. When you buy a piece of land, you are betting largely on making money through appreciation in the value of land. Some of the factors which are unique to land as an investment include the fact that it is not uncommon to see that your land gets encroached by your neighbors. So when you buy a piece of land, it is very important to ensure that you have a very clear-cut boundary so that encroachment is prevented by your neighbors in that area. Again, a very common problem with investing in land is that there is a lack of centralized record keeping by the local authorities. It is not uncommon to find multiple people claiming themselves to be owners of the same piece of land. Apart from the fact that when there isn't proper demarcation of the area of land, it results in disputes of who owns the bordering areas of the land. This has changed in the last few years in India, wherein the regulators have got pretty active. The local state authorities, the municipalities, they figured out ways of demarcating land and ensuring that the land records correctly reflect the owners of the land. If you've read about the government using the drone technology, wherein drones are able to fly over large areas of land and take images of the land and then demarcate it with respect to who owns what part of the land. By using the drone technology, the land is first mapped in terms of what is the land, is it agriculture, commercial or otherwise, and the same is also matched with the land records to make it clear as to who owns till what part of the land. This is a technology which is being used for the last 2 years or so but this should go a long way in taking away the issues associated with multiple people contesting who owns a particular land. One important factor with land again is that within the borders of India, there is only so much land that is available. There is no way that the supply of land can increase, right? So that is one factor which plays a role in the amount of returns that you get from investing in land as a asset class. And finally, just like other real estate categories, land is a big ticket investment and it is illiquid in nature. If you own a land which is say 10,000 square feet plot, you cannot say that let me sell 100 square feet, make some money out of it, use it for my purpose and I'll have the rest of the land. It is not possible to sell part of your land very easily. So it is a illiquid investment and it is a big ticket investment when you think of buying land. One thing that you should keep in mind is that generally you do not get loans from banks when you decide to buy a piece of land. The reason behind that is when you buy a property, whether it's a commercial or a residential property, you expect to receive a certain rent from giving the property out. That rental income allows you to service the loans that you take from banks for buying the property. But when you buy a piece of land, since there isn't any expectation of regular income from that land, banks are averse to giving you loans for buying a land. The only way you try to make money out of buying a land is through the appreciation in the value of the land, and that is something you must keep in mind when you decide to get into a investment in the form of land. Now that you understand the various options available for you to invest if you want to get into the asset class of real estate, each of these investment options allow you to earn returns either in the form of rental yields or in the form of appreciation in the value of the property. Rental yields here play a very important role because real estate as an asset class is pretty illiquid. So the rents that you own on a regular basis kind of offset that to a small extent and also give you returns on a regular cash flows on a regular basis, which you can use for further investments or to take care of your regular needs. So as an investment class where you are constantly in need of money on a monthly basis to take care of your certain expenses, real estate works as a very good investment option because the returns are more or less constant in the form of rent. They allow you to be dependent on them to take care of your monthly requirements. It is not very uncommon for people to invest in real estate as a part of their retirement plan so that when people retire, they know that they are getting a regular rent from the XYZ real estate investment that takes care of their monthly expenses. That said, you look at two factors when you invest in real estate. One is your rental yield and second is your expected appreciation. Now, how your returns of these two are taxed are also very different in terms of the rate that is applicable when you earn these particular returns. First, when you look at taxation of rental income, you're allowed a standard deduction of 30% of the rental income apart from a deduction for the property taxes that you pay on the particular property. The net amount that remains is added to your income and taxed as per your income tax rate slab. If I were to explain this with the help of an example, if your rental income from your Mumbai house that we talked about was 3 lakhs per annum, you will be allowed a standard deduction of 30%, that is 90,000 towards the repair and upkeep of that property. And from that, you are also allowed to deduct an amount of 9,000 towards property taxes. So that gives you a taxable rental income of 3 lakhs minus 90,000 minus 9,000, giving you a net taxable amount of 2 lakh 1,000. This 2 lakh 1,000 is added to your income and taxed as per your slab rate, whether it be the 5%, 10% or the 30% slab that you belong to. The price appreciation portion of your real estate investment is taxed differently and is a function of how long you've held the property. If you hold a property for less than 36 months, it is considered a short-term capital gain that you make on such an investment, and the total gains that you make are added to your income and taxed as per your slab rate. Versus if you've held the property for more than 36 months, then gains from sale of such an investment is considered as long-term capital gains, and these gains are taxed at a rate of 20% of your gains. So the tenure of holding your property determines whether the gains or the price appreciation that you make from the real estate are taxed as short-term or taxed at a preferential rate for being a long-term capital gain. Just like gold, real estate as an asset class has been a very popular investment choice for Indians. The rental yields that you make from investing in a real estate property is a fantastic reason to have a real estate investment. But at the same time, you need to keep in mind that the lack of liquidity is the biggest reason why you would want to think twice before you buy a real estate property. Another reason why real estate is popular is because the risk associated with investment in real estate are not shown to us on a daily basis, just like the ticker that we see for movement in the value of a share that you invested in. The value of a share price is known to you in the morning every day. You can check it during the day and the value is a different amount at the end of the day. So the risk associated with investing in equities is something which is visible on a daily basis with the fluctuation in the share price. Whereas when you invest in real estate, the fluctuation in the real estate prices are not visible to you because there is no ticker which is showing you what is the value of a particular property as on a particular day. Although the real estate values do not fluctuate as much as equity shares, but that does not mean that you will not expect negative returns from investing in real estate. If you talk to anyone who's invested in real estate, they would be complaining about the fact that they've made no money in the last 5 to 7 years. So when capital appreciation has been difficult to come by, the only way you make returns is through the rental yields that you get in the form of rental income every year. So having said that, although it's a very popular choice and the fact that the risks are not visible in the form of a ticker price, there are risks associated with investing in real estate which you must be aware of before you take the decision to invest in a real estate property. To sum up this session for you, the most common way we understand real estate is the house that we live in, but that is not considered as an investment property because we do not generate any income from such a property. The rental yields that you make from a real estate investment help de-risk your overall investment in real estate to a certain extent, given the fact that real estate investments are very illiquid. And given that they need a large ticket amount to get into even your first investment, you would need to build a good corpus before you actually go and buy your first real estate project or your first real estate property. And the most underlying factor when buying a real estate is, we've discussed it again and again, is location, location and location. Location is the one that will determine the total returns that you will actually make when you invest in a real estate property. With this, we wrap up the discussion on the 5 asset classes that we introduced to you in this module, and our next session will be a conclusion session on our discussion of the various asset classes.